Turn that off while I do this.
Well, we're already live, so Meg, make sure you turn that off.
Just turn it off, Dan. I'm in the office today, so I've got there's so many people. There's lots of people and lots of humans here.
Are you stood at your ironing
I'm
board?
stood at my ironing board as well. Yeah, dead professional. But
You need to get yourself a desk.
I'm going to get a standing desk, but I'm too tight to invest in that yet. So
I felt like I bought this
ironing board, and then I might invest in a stand-up desk.
Well, they are a lot of money. So I bought this standing desk, and I think it was about £800. And you know what's really upset me?
Use it first, so I'll just use my ironing board for that.
Good.
For now.
Well, mate, you would love this because you know how much I love Star Wars. It absolutely made me die because I bought this, and then a client of mine was like, "Oh my gosh, you should see this desk that I've just found," and it was a old reclaimed piece of wood standing desk that had resin put in it, and it had Star Wars things inside it that was like super. And then she was like, "It's only £800," and I was like, "Really?" I've just literally bought like a crappy, like it's good, but it's like generic. And I was like, oh, it's okay. So I was literally like, anyway, come on. What are we talking about today?
So last week we did about BMIs and about how you would go through the awkwardness of explaining a BMI to a client and the way it works. So I thought this week we could talk about ease advice or good advice. So basically, when you've got, the easy option where you're not going to need a GP report, where from the client's point of view, the reason they come to you is because they don't have a clue. So it's very easy to go, all right, let's just use an example. I've had a client recently. So say they've said, right, don't want to spend more than £30, but I want X, Y, and Z. I've seen your video on global treatment. I've seen your video on children's critical illness. But due to medical, I can't get critical illness, but I also want IP. Now, easiest thing for me to do there would say, right, they're all going to want a GP report. Realistically, which one's your most concern? And she said to me, global treatment. I want global treatment. Now I feel like I've seen it and I've heard about it. I'm worried if anything happens, I won't be able to, like if something happened to a child. I was like, right, okay. So I know that that's a priority. But realistically, if I really, really wanted to give the best advice possible, I could split it. So say she wants 100,000 life insurance, I can do 50,000 with Aviva, add on the global treatment, and do 50,000 with Guardian and add on children's critical illness cover. So a child's still getting the cover that she wants. That's a concern. She's still getting what she wants in terms of the life insurance, and it still fits within the budget to do the IP. Everyone who is listening who's an advisor knows that that's a shit ton of work, and it's a lot easier to just go, I'm going to do a lump of life, an IP with Aviva, and do a global treatment. Is she aware I'm on a live here?
No, not at all.
I'm on a live here, Becca. Going, oh,
I just heard her.
yawning. Oh God, she's on a Zoom there. So whoever Becca's doing a Zoom with now, you're barring the shit out of her. But anyway, so that's like the easiest option would be to just do one policy, one application, straightforward, go to one GP. Or there is a provider who won't want a GP, but they're going to rate them more. So instead of a 25% rating, they're going to offer a 75% rating with no GP.
Okay.
In my brain, like I've literally just said to these, I really wish sometimes that because I'm so unhinged with making sure I'm doing the right thing, and I genuinely would bother me to not do it. But then where do you draw the line? Like, where do you stop? Like, where's it become where it's not what's best for the client, is in like waiting for GP reports. But then in my defense, back to that is, well, the client's not insured anyway now. They're not insured. It's not as if I'm taking something away from them. I haven't got anything, and all I'm trying to do is make sure they've got a budget of £30 and they want global, they want children's critical illness, and they want IP. I have to do it 3 different applications. Otherwise I can't give them what they want. Yeah. But that means from a business point of view, it's 3 applications, it's time, it's chasing the GP, which they can take 3 weeks, it can take 9 months. It's chasing the providers. It's making sure that the providers actually give the offering a cover that they said they were going to give from the pre-sales. It's a lot of work, but in my brain, I have to justify and I have to do it like that, because if I don't do that for one client and something goes wrong, then that's because I haven't done my job right. Yeah. And it starts getting, it's not too bad when you've only got 5 or 10 clients, but when you're getting 100 clients a week, it's like, oh my God, like I really wish I could turn my brain off to sort of function it in a more of a, should we say, more of a business point of view? Because there will be people who say from a business point of view, that's not realistic. But like I always say all the time, it's conscience over commission for me. Like I have to know that my conscience is clear. And if that client wants that cover, that they've got what they need, and I've done as much as I can to get them that. The biggest kick in the teeth, which I know loads of advisors will have felt this, I've only had it happen about 3 times in the past like 2 years when you're doing that. So you've done the best option available, going through a GP. You know, you could have got them with another provider and they've done it straight off application, but they've charged them 50% more. And the client comes back to you and says, oh, I've just gone and done it myself. It was taking too long.
Yeah.
And you're like, you'd have no idea how much work and effort's being put into that. And if I was just after making money on you, the easiest thing for me to do to make my life easy would have been to put you with the provider that you've gone with, that's costing you more money. And I'm here trying to make sure I'm giving you the best option available.
Yeah.
And there'd be arguments to that to say that, well, if people want the cover, they want the cover, give them the option. But it's very easy to say that, but trying to explain that to a client when they're already trying to understand everything else, it's a lot of information to take in. And how would you say, do you want a GP report to make sure that it's 100% correct and that you're getting the best offer available with the right amount of, you know, the costing is going to be correct, best provider for you? Or do we just put you with another provider who's going to charge you £10 a month more, but you're going to be covered straight away? Even if they say, yeah, I'll just have the easier option, I still can't like justify it in my head because I think, well, no, because I could get you 100 grand more with this person. So if you die, do you know, like, do you switch off? Like,
it's a hard one. I think it's a really hard one to do because it's, as you said, it's actually like an unscalable business model. Yeah. That's the problem with it. So it's one of those things. It's that whole thing of what got you here won't get you there. You know, it's like it's tough, but I think it's also probably one of the reasons why you've been so successful. Actually, if you think about that.
Well, not when people say there's no way you're underwriting every client, and I'm like, no, believe me, I do. Like I have to for my own head. But then I did a video the other day on TikTok, and it went mental. Like within 24 hours, we had 100 inquiries.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And how do you, then you sit there and you go, I need more people to do, I can't physically do this with every single one. But then it's having that issue of, do you trust someone to do it the same way you do it? Like it's very
hard one because
to scale up when you're doing it from a conscience point of view rather than a business point of view.
Well, yeah, it's very hard to scale up. In fact, it's not near impossible, but it scales up in a very different way. It's actually very slower, I think, as well. So like you're scaling up, it's slower, but it's more sustainable. So what you'll find, and tell me if this has been the case for you, if you go to like events and speak to other industry professionals, they won't really understand it. Like it's quite a hard thing to, as you said, it's not a very smart, and I'm using the quote word, like smart business move. But it's also then, you know, I don't know if you ever like, other way, when I'm just hearing you say this, I'm thinking, yeah, because then people always ask you, I don't get how you do it. And you're like, well,
because I've just always done it that way. So
what I mean is, how do you do what you do? People go, oh, I don't know how have you done what you've done, Carla? How have you reached this level? Well, how have you done? And it's like, well, then you've got to start looking at what you're actually doing. And I think that's probably why. That's a massive part of it.
I remember when I went to an event last year and someone come up to me who's been in the industry for about 20 years. And they said to me, do you know with income protection? I said, yeah. They said, do you do a lot of it? And I said, well, it depends if the client wants it, but yeah, I do quite a lot of it. Do you use the societies? Because we don't use them. And I was like, what? He's like, we don't use them. I was like, why don't you use them? Well, they're just, I don't know. We've always just stayed with the main providers. And I'm thinking in my head, every contractor, construction, scaffolding, anything manual, the societies blow the providers out the water on price and offering. So you're telling me that you go back to your client and say your income protection is £65 a month when Exeter could do it for 25, and because you don't want to use them, you're not using them. And I was so blunt, you can imagine. I was just like, sorry, I don't understand that. I don't get that. I said, at the end of the day, it's not about who or what you like to use. It's about what's best for the client, and it's irrelevant, really. He was like, what? So you use all of them? You check all of them? I was like, yes, I check. Why is that so bizarre for people to get the red round? But now I'm starting to do more, like the volume.
Oh, you're seeing it now as you're getting larger.
Now I understand why everyone's saying I don't understand how you're doing that.
It's a naivety thing as well. You get this thing. I had somebody do that once when I was making like videos every day, and the guy that had done it for a long time was like, "You can't make videos every day. Like, you can't do this and multiple things." And I was like, "Well, of course I can." And he was like, "No, trust me." He said, "When you get better and bigger, you can't." And then you get to that point where you reach a point where you go, "Oh shit, no, I really can't." Like this gets because you get too big for it.
But now I have to. The thing is, I won't compromise on that though. Like, so for me, I'd rather lose the money. I'd rather say, right, I'm going to have to hire 2 other people and train them to do what I do in terms of like pre-sales and look at like bit like what Millie's been doing and do it that way, because I cannot compromise. Like for me, I genuinely believe that's why the business has been successful and why it does what it does, because I do 90% of clients appreciate the effort you've put into them and will refer you and will give you more business and promote you. Whereas if you're just an order taker and just do what's easiest for you, there's not a reason why that client shouldn't change their cover. Whereas I know I've had clients email me from 3-4 years ago saying, you know, you did my insurance, I don't want to go anywhere else. Could you please do it? Could you please do it for me? You know, I don't actively ring all my clients all the time. It's just, if you've done your job right, they don't want to go anywhere else. And I think doing your job right means, from a conscience point of view, you've done everything possible to give them value. Like that's you have to give the client the value of to why they're using you and not going online. So yeah, scaling up might be harder to do it continuing with that method, but then there's always a resolution to it. Get more staff, train them, teach them to do it. Like there's a way of doing it. It's just people can't be asked to do it that way. It's too much work.
Well, it's also, as you say, if you want to maintain that level of quality, then it can cost. You know, as you said, it just costs, and it's slower, and it, as you said, you'd rather make less money but do it right and scale it out and have more millies. That's the right way of doing it. It's not the right way. It's just the right way. I think it's the right way for you. Absolutely.
Yes, like when people are always like, "Oh, do you want to be the biggest in insurance?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to be the biggest. I want to be the best."
Yeah.
There's a big difference. I don't want to be the biggest firm. I want to be the best firm. I want to be the best quality firm. I want to know that my firm and my advice is trusted and recommended. That is worth much more than me saying I turn over 5 million a year for what?
Yeah, and have 80 members of staff and all that.
And 3 million comes off, or all the clients cancel, or that no one recommends you. No, I'd rather earn nowhere 10% of that and know that everything I do is 100% correct and my clients are happy. So like that's trying to focus on the best advice, and the right advice is much better than going for the ease of advice, in my opinion. But
I love that. Yeah, but you've just spoken the whole way through this. I've just been listening to you. That's a passionate one. I know that you've been talking about it in the office before.
No, but it's like, I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. It is hard, and loads of times I think, Jesus Christ, like I wish I could sometimes turn it off, but I don't want to, because that's why I'm good at what I do, because I care. And I think
the thing as well is that you're looking for the best deal for the client. And that's the bit that's quite amazing. If you look at, let's take, I don't know who the guy was, I'm not saying that, but like that example of like Exeter being, or whatever, is one of them being £65 and one of them being like 25. That's looking at the commission, as you said, conscience over commission. It's that type of thing of going, actually, this is not, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think you get a better option. And
God, what about that client? I'll finish on this, because this is the part that I really, any advisor who I ever had, for me, would need to have this view, because otherwise I just think you shouldn't be doing the job. When I had that client who was paying £550 a month.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Because of the medical. And they said, all I want you to do is look at it. If you save me a tenner, I don't care. Just as long as you're saving me something. And I got them double the cover for 15 years longer for £60 a month. Yeah. And I knew she'd give me a budget of basically £500. And I know not everyone, and they're not blind. All those advisors out there that would have put that up to 250 and went, right, here, we'll get you this, or we'll put you with this provider I put her with, give her standard terms. There's other providers that wouldn't, but they still would have been half the price of what she was paying. Yeah. The other providers wanted GP reports, they wanted tests, but she was going to get the cheapest outcome for what she wanted. Yeah. And I'm not saying cheapest is always best, but in terms of giving the client the package they want, that was the best that was the most cost-effective option. Like that, you know, you should never ever choose to go with conscience, because it'll come, like, go with commission over conscience, it'll come back to you. Like, it will. find you, karma find you somewhere.
I love that. Is that our parting words? Is it?
Whenever you want, and I know I say it all the time, but genuinely, that I say it constantly, but it really, I do live by it. Like I always never forget walking in my grandma's house and my grandma coming off the phone to someone trying to sell her something for a car, about like looking after a car, and it was something like £200 a month, and I was so annoyed, and I thought it's so bad because people are just taking advantage of the fact that they don't understand it and they're saying you need it.
Yeah.
If you treat every client like you treat that you want your grandma to be dressed, you'll never do a bad day's work. Like, so every single person I speak to, I think in my head, if I was walking into my grandma's house, what would I would like her to be listening to? And if I do it with that in my head, then the business will continue to grow.
I love it. That's such a great way.